Hey there, welcome to Pucknology Conversations. If the season ended today is something we like to say a lot around here, but we're halfway home in the season and the contenders are starting to separate themselves slowly from the pretenders. This is going to be the first in a series of interviews focused on the perspectives of bloggers, podcasters, tweeters, and really anyone else who follow other playoff hopefuls. If you like this, give it a thumbs up, share it, subscribe, check out the links in the description. I'll be taking questions on the Twitter machine at ChrisJWS as I line up guests in the future, so give me all your feedback there. I am joined today by Mr. Jerk. You can follow him at HockeyJerk on the Twitter machine. He's hockey_jerk. Sorry. He's bringing back respectability to the underscore with the Mr. part. Our guest today is Trin Potratz. I hope I pronounced that correctly. He is the host of the Oilers Rig podcast. According to his bio, he's a part-time country musician, caffeine addict, and beer enthusiast. I like pretty much all those things. And you can check out his work at theoilersrig.com, on SoundCloud by searching The Oilers Rig. And you can find him on Twitter at Potratz Hockey. That's Potratz Hockey. How's it going, man?
Pretty good. Really happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, appreciate you joining us. So let's just jump right into it. So there's a lot of ties, between the Oilers and the Sharks. You have our broadcaster, you have our former coach. So let's start with Todd McLellan. Curious to see what you think of him, how he manages the team, both in game and out of game. I'll just leave it open-ended for you and let you give your thoughts.
Well, I'd say Todd McLellan's definitely a huge improvement on what we've had in the past. Looking at the Dallas Aikens, Craig McTavish round two, Tom Wren, just the carousel of coaching the Edmonton Oilers have had throughout this dreaded time. But having Todd McLellan here has really stabilized the position. It's allowed the players to develop some continuity, and he's straight up a really good coach. He proved it with his time with you guys in San Jose. I think last year was tough on him because the Oilers were still a bottom 5 NHL team, but it was kind of a feeling out process with a lot of the players. Now you can see the familiarity with Todd's system paying off early in the season. Most of the team is very comfortable playing his system right off the bat, and we got off to a really hot start. He's a very respected guy. You can tell the players really want to do their best for him. I really like how he handles himself on the bench, and I don't know how vocal he is in the dressing room because obviously I don't get to go in there. But if the Oilers have a tough period where you think they're sleeping, he seems to find a way to get the guys going again. He's not afraid to be direct in the players he's disappointed with, but he doesn't mind giving credit where credit is due. And obviously you can see the jump in the standings, and I think that he's one of the guys you got to give a lot of credit to.
Has he used the line blender a lot with you guys? Because that was always the thing in San Jose. Like if it wasn't going well for a period or so, he'd often start shuffling his lines pretty quick.
Yeah, that definitely has come up quite a few times. But the good part about that, what I like about the blenders, is you get to see other guys out there with other players they normally wouldn't have a chance to play with. Zach Kassian's played in the top 6 with us, and they were able to find things that worked that way. So a lot of people do get a little discouraged that way, but it's helped us find more chemistry than it's made us lose. And sometimes if that's what you got to do to get it going, that's one of the tools the coach can use. So I think that he's actually utilized it really well. And when the team gets into a good stretch, he goes with what's working. And as soon as it stops, he's going to move it. And that allows the players that are really pulling their weight to get more opportunities. And that's why guys like Benoit Pouliot are playing on the fourth line. Guys like Zach Kassian and Tyler Pitlick were getting top 6 minutes.
Has he shown a strong preference for veterans with you guys? I know that was another thing he did in San Jose a lot. He was definitely not the quickest to trust a young player.
Well, I think you can look right now and see a guy like Matt Hendricks getting 10 minutes last night in the second game of back-to-back, 35 years old, while Jesse Puljujärvi, who we just sent down to the minors finally today, he'd been in and out of the lineup, and in his last game he played like less than 4 minutes. So he definitely has a little more loyalty to the veterans, especially a guy like Matt Hendricks, who I think is probably on his last legs as an NHLer. But once again, I think that Puljujärvi hadn't done enough to really warrant getting played up there, and he seems to want to go with a guy that's been in the league that he feels he can trust more.
Yeah, and something I was thinking about too, because as it's been shown before, Todd McLellan definitely favors the veteran guys. He'll give them days off, and he's more hard on the young guys in the bottom six. But I have to think that in a way that works out for the Edmonton Oilers because they're a really young team, and I think in a way it helps keep their young guys accountable. I mean, I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair assessment. Well, we're not as young a team as we have been in the past, but a player like Anton Slepyshev is one. He was just recalled again. He was a guy that Todd McLellan trusted really early in the first year, and once he started waning in his performance, he would bring him in and out of the lineup and whatnot. So I guess he's trying to maybe make these younger guys earn their ice time back, and it's still early right now in his tenure here, but I think that we'll have to see how that pans out. I know there are a lot of players in the Sharks organization that he was playing that he helped get to the point that they're at right now.
Yeah, definitely, especially because, I mean, like I said, it was very, the veteran guys, I know what I have with them. I can give them days off, and the younger guys, it was more of, okay, well, let's see what they have, but you better have something good. I mean, that's just the impression I had from Todd McLellan. He very well could have changed his philosophy since moving to Edmonton.
Yeah, that could be fair. Like I said, I don't focus much on other teams' coaches until I really get to see them, or if I watch enough of their games. So I don't have the easiest comparable to Todd McLellan during his time in San Jose. But what I know is so far what I think he's doing has been working for the most part.
Yeah, and you figure he probably learned a little bit from his tenure in San Jose, if, the good, the bad, and all that. So jumping on to the next topic here, this is, I think, where the show gets controversial here. Based on our discussion before we got on here, Drew Enda had a pretty long run in San Jose. He was extremely beloved here. He was a massive fan favorite, and when he left, there weren't riots in San Jose, but I mean the closest thing you would expect from hockey fans outside of Vancouver, of course. So how has he been received there? Has he connected with the fans the same way, or what's your impression?
Well, in a word, no. This is what you said. It's going to be controversial, and I was surprised to hear that he was so loved. But Drew Enda, there's a Twitter page called Drew Enda Must Go. They want to sign petitions to get him out of the press box, and anytime that Louis DeBrusque, who was the Oilers color guy for the last maybe 3 or 4 years on Sportsnet, every time Louis does a game in favor of Drew Enda, you'll look on the Oilers Twitter and everybody is overjoyed. Now, to be fair to Drew, I think he's he does his job just fine, but I think the reason we don't like him is I don't think he likes the Oilers. We could have, I could count on millions of times how that Drew just blatantly ignores a good play by an Edmonton Oiler and instead points out what they did wrong or praises the opposing team. So it's becoming a bit of a running gag amongst Edmonton Oilers fans that he just really hates the team. There's a fake Drew Enda Twitter account that's provides a lot of laughs for us on there. So if you guys want him back, you guys can gladly take him.
We will definitely take him, but I think I get what you're saying, because that was part of the reason why he got pushed out of San Jose, really, was that management, word this carefully, but management definitely had a preference for a guy who would be a lot more pro, want to be pro Sharks. He could be very pro Sharks, but he could also just be, like I said, super critical. And a lot of fans, I think that's part of the reason why fans here loved him, is he was not a straight homer, and the guy we have now is not a straight homer neither. But he was he was honest. He was brutally honest. And I think he did love the Sharks, and maybe it comes off differently because we have had a long history with him. He was a coach here, all that stuff. Maybe that's what it is, that we were used to that. I basically grew up with Drew Enda calling games.
Yeah, same. And I mean, you think about it too, he started out as an assistant coach, and he was the color guy for a large portion of the franchise. And so you can almost argue that in a way, the Sharks were kind of like his baby, you know, like he saw him from the beginning and he's seen them grow up and that sort of thing, versus the Edmonton Oilers. I mean, again, I don't watch every Edmonton Oilers game on Sportsnet, but I have to think that in some capacity he views it more as a job than kind of, you know, being around with the old gang and with, you know, what he's familiar with.
Yeah, I can see that. And, you know, a lot of people do want that in their color commentator guy. You know, just by getting so critical of him, really, he does do a good job. And the fact that he isn't a homer, I think that ruffles some feathers. But there are a lot of Edmonton Oilers fans that really aren't homers themselves, because everybody can be critical one way or another. So if that's going to be his biggest crime, I don't think that it's going to be too big of an issue.
If you ever want a good laugh, look up on YouTube his spat with Ray Ratto, roughly 2012. Ray Ratto's just win the game rant. It might have been one of the funniest Drew Remenda moments of all time. I'll let you look it up sometime. You'll probably love it. It's really funny. So moving kind of on here. You know, there's been a couple years, you know, where we've heard this will be the year the Oilers take their step forward and get to the playoffs. I'm sure you're sick and tired of hearing that. And it looks like this could well be the year. So what do you think is different this year versus last year and the year before that?
Well, pretty much, and the decade before that, we can all look at the same thing. Ever since the Oilers started the rebuild, really, it's just been year after year of disappointment. And I'm a big positive person, and my positivity is wavered from time to time. But I think you got to look at Peter Chiarelli, and when he came into the organization, it was really the first time we had the changing of the guard, because he brought in a respected coach like Todd McLellan, and then he started making them his team. The Edmonton Oilers are a very heavy and hard team to play against, and they have enough skill to get by. The additions of Adam Larsson and Chris Russell, along with the emergence of Matt Benning, that's really solidified the D. We're not giving up grade A chances as often as we were. We have a number one goaltender who can bail us out every time that we do give up those chances. And really, the scary thing I find is that the Oilers have never really had more than one line firing on all cylinders in any given game. Nugent Hopkins is having an off year. Benoit Pouliot is having a ghastly year. And Jordan Eberle is what I think he has one goal in his last 21 games. So these guys are struggling, and the team is still winning. And I think the big part is that they've really formed an identity. And players like Patrick Maroon and Mark Letestu are playing above where I think everybody thought they would be. And that's kind of helped offset some of the lack of contributions from the Nugent Hopkins, Pouliots, and Eberles. And I think that if Nugent Hopkins and Eberle can find their games, at least maybe to like 70% of their abilities, this team could get more than one line rolling at once. Because obviously McDavid's line's going to drive it. And he's been playing with Draisaitl now, and Draisaitl was able to drive a line himself. If we can get all these guys going, this team has another gear. And I think that is the biggest change here. They don't roll over when they get down. And I seriously go into every game thinking they're going to win. And I have not had that feeling in the last 10 years. Yeah,
that sounds a lot like the thing with Todd McLellan. Like they were very even, or the Sharks evened out a lot more under him, or at least in my opinion. Like there was a lot more confidence in the way they played. So kind of follow on there, you know, you talked about the D. How has Adam Larsson really fit in there after the Hall trade?
Tremendously. I was one of the people that, well, after the dust had settled and I got over the loss of Taylor Hall, because Taylor Hall is a tremendous player, no matter which way you slice it. We know we didn't win the deal one for one. But what Adam Larsson's come in is, what I'm very impressed with is, I didn't realize he was going to be that physical. He can crush guys, and he's hard to play against on the boards. He's given us 20 minutes a night. And he's actually a decent puck mover, which, you know, you look at his stat line, it's not going to jump out at you. But ask a lot of Edmonton Oilers fans, and they will say they are thoroughly impressed with Adam Larsson. What he's done is like I said, he solidified the defense. And that was what the Edmonton Oilers were missing. We didn't need another Taylor Hall because we had enough guys that could score. The Oilers aren't having problems scoring goals this year, and now we're finding ways to keep them out of our nets. And Adam Larsson has been a very, very big contributor to that.
Yeah, speaking of scoring goals, because you need goals to win.
Yeah.
I just want to know what you think about Pat Maroon. His career year. Is this a product of McDavid, or I mean, in your estimate, do you think he is a true top six scoring winger?
Oh, absolutely. And the interesting thing is people might point and say that it's because he's been playing with McDavid, but really he's only played on McDavid's line about 7 or 8 games this year. He has the most even strength goals on the team. He seems to just be able to put one home when we need one. He's a hardworking guy. He's an infectious personality, and really I didn't expect him to be this good. And when we picked him up at the trade deadline last year, he thoroughly impressed me. But I was always, pumping the brakes. He had 14 points, I think, in 16 games after the trade. And I didn't expect him to keep that up. But really, he's picked up where he left off. And I don't think he's gone more than 5 games without putting up a point. He's definitely a top 6 player now that sometimes will play on your third line. And another cool thing is he's not even getting first unit power play time. That's Milan Lucic is on the first power play and Maroon's on the second. So what he's done a lot more by himself than I think people notice.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I saw, last year when they picked him up at the deadline, the type of player Maroon was, my first thought was, it's a typical Todd McLellan guy. He's more heavy set, he's going to hit you. He's going to shoot the puck a lot. But I think you bring up a lot of good points. You put him in that role and he's kind of, he's scoring what seems like at will. Just keeping on theme, though, with the scoring wingers, we saw in San Jose, Joe Pavelski started out as a center on his own line, controlling the play, and then eventually moved up to the top line right wing. So I'm just curious, do you feel that Leon Draisaitl is better suited as the top line wing or as a second line center? And do you think if they keep him on the wing that the secondary scoring will dry up at all?
That's actually a really good question. Leon Draisaitl, I think he'd be better suited playing the second line center, but Nugent Hopkins hasn't been offensively productive enough to warrant him being in that position. And that's a big reason. But Draisaitl and McDavid have a surprising amount of chemistry because they play very different games. Connor McDavid, he's all speed and dazzle. And Draisaitl likes to slow the play down, but he's really strong on his backhand. And having him on McDavid's right wing, they've found some insane chemistry, and I guess you can kind of relate that to what happened with Joe Pavelski. At the start of the year, Todd McLellan actually talked about how he had Pavelski at center and put him on the wing to get him in the top 6, and he compared Nugent Hopkins to Pavelski, saying that he thinks Nugent Hopkins is going to be a lot like Joe Pavelski, and Joe Pavelski wasn't an NHL player until he was 24 years old, while this is Nugent Hopkins' 5th year in the league, and he's 24 years old. So Leon Draisaitl, I think he would be better suited to have him on the second line center. But hey, right now, Maroon, McDavid, and Draisaitl are arguably one of the top 5 lines in the league, and they've been the only reason we've been in some of these games lately.
Yeah, and then just kind of more on your wingers and stuff like that. I'm curious to know how you feel about the Milan Lucic signing because, a lot of money, a lot of term, and I would say a lot of expectations. How do you feel he's done so far? Do you think he's worth the contract? Not enough? Too much? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I've been one of the people that has been more patient with Milan Lucic. I'd like to see a little bit more. I don't feel like he's totally locked in quite yet. He's an NHL veteran. He's not going to be worth that contract in year 5, 6, and 7. That there's just no way around it. But I've liked what he's brought to the team because he's got a swagger and an attitude that I think is rubbing off on the guys a bit. But he has been a little disappointing so far, but I'm not one to worry about it right now. I'm sure in year 2 he's going to take another step because he'll get used to the system and whatnot. The thing is, I don't think we thought Patrick Maroon would be this good this year, and that's why Lucic was brought in. But essentially, Patty Maroon is a light version of Lucic. He's just having better puck luck right now. Lucic wasn't able to click with McDavid like we all hoped, but he does have really good chemistry with Leon Draisaitl. And he's been playing on line with Kassian and Nugent Hopkins. And I guess last night they didn't really have a great game. But the game against New Jersey, they kept the cycle going down, and I thought that this was going to be the start of Milan Lucic really being what everyone expects out of Milan Lucic.
So we talked wingers, defense. Talk about goal, and you guys have a problem, or what I think might be a problem. It's very similar to ours. Cam Talbot, I think, is started 37 out of 42, if I checked correctly the other day. Meanwhile, here, Martin Jones, like we barely even remember we have a backup. Are you concerned about him getting burned out before the playoffs start?
I am a little concerned, and that's been a big issue. Like Jonas Gustafsson played last night and absolutely cost us the 2 points because he was putrid, to put it in one word. I was looking at Aaron Dell's numbers, and actually he's got pretty good numbers. I think you guys could give him a few more starts, but the Oilers have no confidence in their backup goalie. That's why he was put on waivers. That's something we've been writing about on the Oilers rig is seeing what we can do, because we are all concerned. We still have 40 games left. And Talbot can't start all 40 of them, because if we want to go to the playoffs and even have a run, we're going to need him to be in tip-top shape. I haven't seen a goalie since Martin Brodeur that was able to start this many games. So I'm definitely concerned, and I hope that Chiarelli has something up his sleeve to take some pressure off Cam Talbot.
I hear Alex Stalock is free, but yeah. I don't know if you followed our situation last year, but we had a very similar situation where we could not trust Alex Stalock. Like, we were burning Jones because Stalock, we just couldn't even put him in for a single game. He would let in 5 and it would be a disaster. That's why we had a trade deadline acquisition there to actually spell Jones a bit in the before the playoffs. I assume you'll probably be in a similar position unless you have a turnaround with your backup there.
Well, it doesn't look like well, put it this way, I'd take Stalock right now over Jonas Gustafsson or whatever option we have in the minors. Laurent Brossoit, I think, is going to get the call up. And he's had a pretty good track record as an AHL goalie to this point, but he's on a 10-game slide right now. His numbers aren't necessarily eye-popping, so I don't think that he's going to be able to spell Talbot. So, yeah, like what you guys did last year, bringing in James Reimer, and he was able to give Jones a break down the line. Reimer played some really good hockey for you guys, and I think that it was a big reason you guys got to go to the final.
Yeah, absolutely. That move's been pretty universally praised here, as that stopped Jones from probably starting 75 games or something like that. So one last question really about the team and all that. So there's always those unsung heroes. You take us a level deeper, and there's a playoff matchup next week. Who's a guy that's not a household name that you think could be a really impactful player that we may not know unless we watch a lot of Oilers hockey?
Well, it's unfortunate that Tyler Pitlick was injured this year, and he's out for the rest of the season, because he had all of his 8 goals were even strength, and he looked like he was going to be the guy that would really come up and surprise. But I'm a big fan of Anton Slepyshev. It's a name that you guys might not be too aware of. But Slepyshev, he made the team at a camp 2 years in a row, so Todd McLellan really likes his game. He's responsible defensively. He has 2 goals, 2 assists in 15 games at the big club. He just got recalled, and I thought he was really coming on before they sent him down. I thought that Puljujärvi should have been the player we sent down. We finally did that, and Slepyshev's back, but he went down to the AHL, and he produced at a point-per-game pace, and now he's going to come up, and he's probably going to get time in the top 9. And this guy's he's a 22-year-old Russian kid. He played 3 years of pro in Russia before coming over here, so this is really his 5th pro season. I think he's gonna be a guy that's gonna surprise. I've been a big advocate for his game, so I'd say keep an eye on Anton Slepyshev if you play in a fantasy league or anything, or just want to have a bragging right pick to have.
I've heard the name Jerk. Are you familiar with him?
Yeah, I believe he became more notable in the KHL, but I think last year was kind of his first venture over into North America. I mean, I haven't heard anything bad about him, so that's good. I could see him be, kind of like a Melker Karlsson or a Jonas Donskoy, where he's there when you need him to be, and you don't really expect him to. And by the time you do start to expect it, it's too late for the other team to figure it out.
Yeah, for sure. I was actually going to say Jonas Donskoy would be probably the best comparable on your guys' team. He was another guy who came out of nowhere. I think he was a he's a Florida Panthers draft pick that went unsigned, and you guys brought him in as a free agent. And I actually picked him up last year in my fantasy hockey league team, and nobody knew who he was. He didn't really have a big point season, but it was still a good little sleeper pick.
Yeah, a lot of people here were, particularly Ian Reed on our show, was super high on him before the season and thought he was going to be impactful. And yeah, he turned out to be a hell of a player for us last year. So two more things to wrap up. So this is a question someone submitted for me. So we've heard a lot of reviews about the new Rogers Place. What do you think of it? Have you had a chance to go there yet, or?
I haven't actually had the chance to go to Rogers Place yet. There were a couple times I was trying to get tickets to a game, but I still live 4 hours away from Edmonton. So it's a trip. I have family up there and whatnot. I'm going up. I think I'm going to try and get tickets there to the Predators game there on the 20th. But Chris Hansen's a guest I have on my podcast a lot, and he's been to a few of the WHL teams games there and just said it's absolutely state of the art. It's a little cold. That's one thing I keep hearing, but they say it's just going to blow your mind. And I'm really excited to get to go there because it's going to be a really exciting thing.
So what does an average nosebleed ticket run for, take out like the sexy teams like the Blackhawks, just say average game, how much does a nosebleed ticket run?
Well, right before we hit record on this, we were talking about this, and yeah, I paid $120 for a nosebleed ticket to back when it was Rexall Place. Same thing. I lived in Calgary for a while, so I went to games at the Saddle Dome, and yeah, you'd pay around $100 no matter where you're sitting. A lower bowl ticket, I think you're paying $220. This is Canadian, so a little bit cheaper for you guys if you wanted to come down and check it out and whatnot. But the price runs pretty high, but it's always worth it if you get to go and see your team win or just to watch NHL hockey, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've been to Minnesota and the tickets there run higher than here. Here they run what we think is high, but compared to other markets, it's actually not all that high. So last question. I know you said you're a beer enthusiast on your Twitter bio there. If I'm around Edmonton, where should I get a beer at? What's good?
If you're ever in Edmonton, and the cool thing about Rogers Place being right downtown, now you can walk to this little Irish pub called Sherlock Holmes. It's a Sherlock Holmes pub. They have live entertainment almost every night. So it's my cousin has played. I played on the stage there before, just like as a guest spot. And it's a very cool Irish pub. So you got your live music, all of your international different kinds of stouts. Like you probably won't be able to taste a good Guinness unless you go to Ireland, but that's pretty much the second best place you could get it. I recommend a pint of Grasshopper, or some Big Rock is actually an Alberta brew that is made right there. So that's what I would say. If you guys ever come through Edmonton, you go to a game at Rogers Place when the Sharks come to town. It's about I'd say 15-minute walk, and if it's not too cold for you guys can make it down there and have a good pint.
Yeah, it's on my bucket list of places I want to see a game at. I've seen a few other arenas. I have yet to go to a Canadian arena, so that's one of the ones I got to do. So to wrap up here, if you want to let people know where they can find you on Twitter, on the internet, and everywhere else.
You bet. Well, guys, go ahead and you can go on iTunes, SoundCloud, or to theoilersrig.com and find the Oilers Rig podcast. I do a weekly one. Sometimes I do a bonus one if I get a special guest. I'm also a writer on the Oilers Rig, and I just started writing for a website on Fansided called Puck Pros. So I get to write about the entire NHL. And I think now that I've looked at the San Jose Sharks a little bit more and chatting with you guys, I might have to put my opinion on your team and see if I can ruffle some feathers there too. I
think you'll ruffle enough feathers saying bad things about Drew Enda.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right, cool. So as always, thank you for being here. You can follow my co-host here at hockey_jerk. Use Mr. Jerk on Twitter. You can follow me at ChrisJWS. Subscribe below. If you're listening to this on audio only, subscribe to us on SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, iTunes, and all that other lovely stuff. All right. Thanks, everyone, for being here, and have a good night.